Hey friends, today on Gardening with Creekside, we are going to work on my front porch a little bit. Got a couple things we need to get done today. One, we are going to plant the aquapot that you see behind me. This is going to be basically a full shade aquapot. So we're going to get that planted up. We are going to, I'm going to show you how I'm going to put irrigation on the hanging baskets. If you remember, gosh, when was that? 6 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago? You were with me as we planted up these big, beautiful 24-inch wide hanging baskets from Kinsman Garden Company. And so you saw me pot those up. The time has come. We finally got our supplies, and we are going to go ahead and get the drip irrigation hooked up on that. We have all of the bones of the irrigation here. It's just that because these are such massive baskets, we're having to switch how we distribute the water within the basket. So I'm going to show you that as well. First things first, we are going to get this aquapot planted up. Give you an idea, our front porch is very shaded up until late afternoon. Our house faces kind of north with a little bit of northwest in there, so it does stay nice and shady until, like I said, late afternoon. This aquapot is definitely going to be a full shade aquapot. We are going to plant two things in here, two different kinds of plants. We're going to keep it really simple this year. I have this beautiful wine craft black smoke bush that our friends at Spring Meadow Nursery, proven winners, sent us last year. And so we are going to go ahead and use this as my kind of my thriller in here. They sent me this beautiful plant because it is marginal for us. It is definitely a cool weather shrub. It is hardy in zones 4 to 8. Obviously we are a 7B, right? So I can do this. It's just finding that right location for it, because it says light exposure is sun. Well, if I put this in the full sun in my North Carolina Zone 7B garden, it's probably going to fry. I do have the gold one. That's that nice chartreuse green. It is in full sun, and so far it's hanging in there. So this is a nice big test for us. This, if you, like I said, it's hardy in zones 4 to 8. It can get 4 to 6 feet tall and wide, so we can get some heft to it. North Carolina, again, I'm just testing this out. We're going to see what it does, but it has beautiful growth. It overwintered beautifully for me, and so we are going to use that as a centerpiece. We're just really going to kind of switch it up this year with this planter. Then we have, look at these gorgeous, gorgeous annuals. Y'all, I am so excited about this plant. This is a new introduction for next year. So it is, as the tag says, new 2024 intro. And this is the Double Delight Apple Blossom. I'm using a lot of the Double Delight Primrose, which is that beautiful, soft, buttery yellow. Well, this is going to be a new color. This is Apple Blossom. Look at it. I mean, look at that bloom. Is it not exquisite? Just gorgeous. Really nice, heavily kind of very angular leaves on it. Nice green color. You get all of these beautiful buds with a kind of a peachy pink background. And then, like I said, I mean, look over here. So this one, see how pink this one is? A little bit of red. And then they're small, and then they develop and open up into those big, fat blooms on it. So this is going to be kind of a mounding trailing plant, 8 to 14 inches tall, full to part sun. Now, this is where, again, I love that they send me these plants, because I can test them out. For years, well, not years, yeah, I would say years, I wanted to do the primrose, and it says full sun, like full to part. So I tried full, and it just fried. Like, it would just burn up. So I took it, I got so kind of like frustrated with it, I just took it off, it was in a container, moved it, and just stuck it offside somewhere, and I was like, I'll just forget about you. Well, it got morning sun and then was in the shade all afternoon. with all that neglect and moving it to the sun conditions, it was gorgeous. So that is what I have found. The key to these is, for me, where I am, they can do morning sun or a couple of hours of sun, but not all day sun. So we're going to plant the apple blossom all around the bottom of this. Now, I have struggled in the past, Jerry and I were talking, that I think because this porch is so incredibly shaded that it, bless you, that it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't grow as well as it should. Sweet friend Tracy from Plaid and Poppies, remember Tracy? She was here, she and Clay were here, I don't know, a couple months ago, but we visited her last year, and one of the biggest nuggets that I took away from when we visited her house was she has deep porches with beautiful containers, and a friend of hers who owns a garden center that she goes to told her to put grow lights in her wall sconces. So that is what I am going to do. So I'm going to put a grow light here so that it encourages beautiful growth from all of these plants, and not only growth, but it'll be even growth, because a lot of times by the end of the season my plants are going this way, they're stretching for the sun. So that is going to be a little trick that I am going to try this year, thanks to my little sweet peep Tracy. So we are going to get the camera set up and go ahead and get these planted. All right, so we have got the aquapot all prepped and ready to go. Jerry and I went ahead and removed our fall winter planting. All of those plants are going to be saved. You saw me plant that because that was right before Tracy came to come visit us. So all of those plants are just going to be repotted and or put back into the garden put into the garden somewhere else. Completely emptied the aquapot of all the old soil, refilled it with fresh, beautiful Proven Winners potting soil, making sure that when you have that aquapot, you've got the soil tube, that you push that soil down into your soil tube so that it wicks really well. So we have a good 10 inches that's still available. So that's what the smoke bush is sitting on top of. So pretty simple here. We're just going to take this out. My mom, she is my Sue gardener, instead of a sous chef, she's my Sue gardener. So she helps me out a ton. And so she repotted this winter. So we're going to see, it was a 1 gallon, and there we go. All right. Root system held really well. Okay. When you're doing your aquapots, especially when you're on like a side of a wall like this, I always tell people before you put your soil in to think about what makes the most sense for your location of your fill tube, like the water tube. So for me, our hose is back here, so I put mine off to the side. I don't put it in the center, I put it off to the side. So you got the little water tube right there. Now, we need this in the center of the pot. So I have to look at it from the angles and make sure, and I'm going to put it more towards the back. There we go. Fill in some soil right there, push it in. Yep. All right. I think we're good. Because, you stand on one side and then you start looking around, and then when you get halfway done, you're like, well, that's not centered at all. So I've got lots of good room here. I'm going to take Proven Winners potting soil and top it off. And then we're going to keep, like I said, keep it very simple and fill in all around the base of the smoke bush with the apple blossom. It is going to be so gorgeous. Always start and fill your containers with potting soil. Please do not use other materials to fill in your aquapots or any other pot, right? Because your plants can't get nutrition from plastic bottles or packing peanuts, or if you're in the South, pine cones, or whatever the case may be that you're putting in there. Go ahead and use your potting soil in there. That is just something that I am very passionate about, is if you're going to go to all this effort, and just do it right, people. Do it right. All right, so I've got an air pocket back there. I want to make sure we fill that in nice and well. Smoke bush is in. Lots of good soil all the way around. Look at this gorgeous plant. So stinking excited about this. We're gonna pack them in there nice and full. So because this is like the perfect specimen, she's gonna go here in the center. When you're planting your annuals, you know how to do this, right? We've all planted these pots before, whether it's an aqua pot or a traditional pot. The way that you do it is always the same, making sure that you don't have any air pockets where your roots are, right? Because your roots need to have beautiful contact with all that nice soil, because that's where they get all their food and nutrition, water, all the things that make the plant very happy. So we're gonna get, I think it's gonna take less than I think it is, because these plants are already so happy and healthy. I happen to know a great grower who does a really good job growing his plants. We're blessed that way. Here we go. I told Jerry this planter kind of reminds me right now of like a person, like a body, and then there's like a lady in her skirt like overflowing. I do love the color contrast of it, of the dark smoke bush, the sweet apple blossom with that nice green leaves, that pink and that white. It is going to be gorgeous. Now, that apple blossoms will get some height to them. They get tall. They're both mounded and trailing all at the same time. So they're going to fill in here really nicely, and then adding the grow light above it is going to have just encourage growth for everybody. Both the smoke bush and the begonias, they're going to do great. Made sure that all of the root balls have contact with soil. I top dressed with the Land and Sea compost, and then went ahead, because I forgot to do it earlier, put in the Proven Winners continuous release fertilizer and just kind of shook it down into the soil, and then pop the leaves to make sure that you don't have the fertilizer sitting on top of the leaves, because it could burn them. What I'm going to do is get everything cleaned up. I will get the hose, and I will, when you are first watering your aqua pot, water it in from on the soil first to get your soil nice and saturated from the top down. And then you can take your hose and stick it into the fill tube and get the water going into the whole basin of the aqua pot. You fill it up until water squirts out the back hole, and that way you know that you can never like overfill your aqua pot, because there is that overflow hole in the back. So we're going to get these nice and well watered in, and then we're going to move to the irrigation on the hanging baskets. Just going to do a really quick show you how I do it, and then we have a fun new addition on our porch. I'm excited to show you. If you're a Southerner or you've visited the South, you might be familiar with this. It's very unique. So the aqua pot is all nice and taken care of, planted, watered in, and we went ahead and got 3 of the hanging baskets with the irrigation put in, and so we are on the last basket. Jerry is going to kind of do it, and I am going to narrate it as we go through and show you how we are installing this drip onto these hanging baskets. Give you a little perspective here. We have our drip line, our main drip line that runs length the top of the porch. It is a white 1/2 inch solid line, and then where the baskets are, there is an emitter. So we have the emitter right there, then the skinny, 1/4 inch white tubing, maybe, I don't know what size that is, and then that is the solid line that goes down into the baskets. So he has got on the end of that white line basically like a coupler. There we go. So that it joins the two together. And so the brown tube that he is putting on is the one that has the emitters basically every 6 inches. And so you kind of have to wiggle, squiggle, and the white line is probably not the exact correct,
to see if this will work.
The correct size. And then he just takes it and of course, this would have been a lot easier to do before we put the plants in, but we did not have the supplies. So we're gonna make it work the best we can. Great thing about the hanging baskets being on that little rotating hook is that he can just spin the baskets around and lays the tubing in there. And then at the very end of the tube, you can see there's basically like a little, let's see if I can do this. There we go. There is like a little rubber stop. So we don't have to tie the two brown, like the tube back into the brown tube. We can just work it through there. He's going around the perimeter of the hanging basket and then down through for the center so that the coleus, that is the mini-me watermelon coleus in there in the center, will get water as well. So we have this hooked up to our main irrigation system for the yard and the flower beds. This system actually ties in, or this zone ties into the deck boxes on the back porch. So the hanging baskets on the front porch, the deck boxes on the back porch are the same zone. So they can run, right now, I don't know how often they're running in the heat of the summer. Then we're gonna have to obviously crank it up, possibly do it twice a day because of these hanging baskets. They, a lot of plants in there, big, beautiful, and it is a cocoa lined hanging basket. But right now, everybody is doing great. All right, let me show you the fun new addition we got to our front porch. Behind me is the newest addition to our front porch. To give you a little history, so if you are a Southerner or have visited the South, you might know what that is. And if you don't know what that is, then you have no clue what that is. So I'm gonna tell you what it is. A little history though. As a child, my mama's family grew up, or is from rather, like low country South Carolina. So as a child, I would spend a ton of time, especially in the summer, in the Orangeburg, Cameron, Santee, Manning, Four Holes, that area. So that is where my mama's roots are, and they're where my roots are. Spent a lot of time there as a child. Very close to Charleston, South Carolina. Probably, well, I say very close. What, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours at the most away from Charleston, South Carolina. So a lot of influence makes its way up to that area. Some older Southern homes on the front, on the porches, would have what we call joggling boards. This is a joggling board. As a child, I spent many hours on joggling boards having the absolute most fun. This is definitely kind of indigenous to the Charleston area. And what it is that you sit here in the middle, or you have a bunch of people, you can have a good number of people on here, and you sit and it bounces up and down, and because this has rockers on it, you can also rock back and forth. The joggling board actually has its roots in Scottish history, and so it made its way to Charleston, and it is definitely a sign of Southern hospitality here in the low country of South Carolina, and by way of our house here in North Carolina. I always wanted to have one. Always, always, always. But it's really hard. Nobody ever made them commercially, and then to make them yourself, even though my dad is a woodworker, he knows how to make them. But the key is to have a perfect long board. This is a 12-foot long board with no knots in it. Because you sit and you bounce, you're bouncing up and down and rocking back and forth. And if you have knots or imperfections in the wood, then it can snap, which obviously is not a good thing. Jerry and I and the kids were down at the beach at Pawleys Island around Mother's Day, and I was flipping through a Charleston magazine, like a home and decor kind of magazine, and I saw another advertisement, not for joggling boards, but for something else, like a cushion that goes on the joggling board, and it had this this name, and I was like, oh my goodness, are my dreams about to come true? And so it is from the Joggle Factory, made in Edisto Island, South Carolina. Right there, Edisto Island is very close to Charleston, and lo and behold, you can order your very own joggling board and it is delivered to you. It came Friday, yes, last Friday, so we've had it just for a little while, and I absolutely love it. My kids love it because with our trips, you know, traveling, they knew what a joggling board was. It comes in one color, Charleston green. Been to South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, you know that Charleston green is a very kind of like famous Charleston color. It looks black, but is actually so dark green. It's a really, really, really rich dark green. So that is it. So if you're interested in a joggling board, if you know what a joggling board is, and you've been like me, you've desperately wanted one, but you never knew where to find one or where to get one, then you can order your very own from the Joggle Factory as well. So it is not related to, you know, I don't get anything from it. I'm just passing along some good information here. So check out the Joggle Factory. But everything here is doing well. I went ahead and, since I was hosing off the porch, I went ahead and shot the baskets with some water. And then of course the aqua pot is all watered, happy. Again, y'all, I think you're gonna love these next year as much as I do, because look at that big, beautiful bloom. It is just beautiful. All right, my friends, today's project is done. So as always, we hope you have found this fun, informative, and inspirational. Y'all have a great day. Thanks for gardening with us here in my southern front porch. Y'all have a great day. See you next time. Bye, friends.